Having made its first flight during the Cold War era, the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress continues to perform strategic missions into the 21st century. Having successfully stood the test of time and technology, the legendary bomber has proven its reliability and adaptability in ever-changing military environments around the world, becoming a symbol of strength and intimidation. But can numerous upgrades extend the B-52's service life by another 50 years? Let's find that out right now. The B-52 Stratofortress, or as American soldiers like to call it, the buff, big, ugly, fat fucker, appeared right at the end of World War II. True, so far only on paper within the framework of a successful contract in 1946, and the first prototype took off into the sky 6 years later, in April of 1952. Since then, the B-52 design has evolved greatly, from the straight-wing Boeing Model 462 with 6 Wright T-35 turboprop engines, a total weight of 360,000 pounds, and a combat radius of 3,110 miles, to the modern B-52 Stratofortress, which sports 8 Pratt & Whitney TF-33 P3-103 turbojet engines, weighing 480,000 pounds, and having a combat radius almost 3 times more, 8,800 miles. Although the B-52 was originally designed for long-range bombing, it was the addition of aerial refueling technology via a loop hose that made this heavyweight a truly global threat. The first tests of these refueling capabilities began back in 1957 during Operation Powerflight. It was intended to prove the United States' ability to conduct global bombing operations, deploy nuclear weapons from the B-52 over long distances, and carry out missions safely. The latter was especially relevant given the peacetime of that era, since the USSR could see escalation in any U.S. actions. Yes, as you already understand, the mindset of the USSR's successor has not changed by much even today. One way or another, in January 1957, members of Operation Powerflight landed at March Air Force Base. Their mission to circle the globe and end up in the history books was successfully completed in less than half the time required by the B-52's predecessor, the B-29 Superfortress. Due to its massive airframe, the B-52, unlike today's stealth bombers, could be equipped with almost any weaponry and electronics, even those that did not yet exist in the project at the time of the appearance of this aircraft. The weak point of the Iron Monster was its subsonic maximum speed and excessive slowness for carrying out missions in tightly contested airspace. However, here the Stratofortress got lucky with cruise missiles with nuclear warheads that appeared on time, which guaranteed the bomber a firmly reserved place for it in the air part of the U.S. nuclear triad. By the way, at the height of the Cold War, B-52s were on duty 24/7, circling outside Soviet airspace to provide a lightning-fast response to a possible attack. Considering that the number of Stratofortresses produced is 744 units, the appearance of more than a dozen, or to be precise, 17 modifications, did not take long to arrive. Ultimately, the U.S. Air Force chose the last production version, the B-52H, which is still in service today. But let's not discount the project to modernize the fleet of the existing 76 B-52H bombers to the new B-52J modifications. In fact, let's take a look at that now. In April of 2020, the U.S. Air Force issued a request for proposals for 608 commercial engines, as well as spare parts and support equipment, intending to award a deal to contractors in the spring of 2021. The Commercial Engine Replacement Program, CERP, attracted the interest of leading market players, General Electric, which offered its CF3410 and Passport turbofans, Pratt & Whitney with their PW800, and Rolls-Royce, who promoted their own BR725, better known a little later as the F-130. In September 2021, the U.S. Air Force declared Rolls-Royce's F-130 engines the winner of the race and announced plans to buy 608 direct replacement engines and another 42 spares at a cost of $2.6 billion. Interestingly enough, in 1996, Rolls-Royce and Boeing jointly proposed equipping each B-52 with 4 leased engines, Rolls-Royce RB211, which would increase the B-52's flight range and reduce its fuel consumption. The U.S. Air Force, in turn, conducted an analysis and in 1997 announced that Boeing's estimated $4.7 billion in savings would not be realized. Instead, a re-engineering would cost taxpayers $1.3 billion more than maintaining the existing 8 B-52 engines. The U.S. Air Force's view was soon challenged by a 2003 Defense Science Board (DSB) report, which stated that replacing 8 engines with 4 engines would not only reduce fuel costs, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but also increase range and endurance of the aircraft. Ultimately, 4 engines would indeed be a more efficient solution, but at the same time, it would require additional changes to the bomber systems, in particular the control rudder, thereby extending the modernization timeline, its cost, and the complexity of the project all to an ungodly degree. So even the new B-52J will have the usual 8 twin engines. In the fall of 2022, Boeing released a video marking the successful completion of wind tunnel testing of the B-52 Stratofortress as part of the commercial engine replacement program. The first thing that caught the eye when seeing the prototype aircraft was the new engine nacelles and their changed position. Soon a full-size mock-up of one of the nacelles was shown, each of which will contain 2 F-130s. Many immediately noticed that the rendering of the B-52J showed a modified nose of the bomber, returning it to the more classic look of the early prototypes. And the usual pair of fairings under the nose had been completely removed. First added in the 1970s, 2 enclosures formed together, Electro-Optical Viewing System, EVS, with the right one holding a Hughes AN/AAQ6 forward-looking infrared FLIR system, and the second one containing a Westinghouse AN/AVQ22 low-light level television LLL TV system. The main purpose of the EVS was to assist crews when flying at minimum altitude, as well as providing partial surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities. Today, EVS in the U.S. Air Force's B-52H fleet has almost completely replaced modern targeting containers, Lockheed Martin Sniper and Northrop Grumman Lightning mounted on pylons under the left wings of bombers. Not to mention the need to penetrate hostile space at low altitudes has waned markedly since the end of the Cold War. The new B-52J nose sections house Raytheon's AN/APG-79 Active Electronically Scanned Array ASA radar. This will greatly improve radar range, accuracy, resistance to enemy countermeasures, and situational awareness of Stratofortress pilots. Among other innovations visible to the naked eye on the B-52J prototype were the pylons. One of them, located under the right wing, presumably displays the dimensions of the future weapons of the B-52 strategic bombers, the AGM-183A Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, Arrow, hypersonic missiles, whose weight is about 7,000 pounds. It's not for nothing that Boeing representatives back in 2021 talked about new Hercules heavy lift pylons, capable of carrying 20,000 pounds on each wing and adapting to transport not only hypersonic weapons, but also increasing the ability to accommodate existing weapons. And if you look at the cockpit, even despite the more modern equipment, you get a strong feeling that you're still in the 60s. Pilots even joke about it themselves, recalling Stanley Kubrick's 1964 film Dr. Strangelove, while at the same time claiming that they can carry out any mission using the equipment available in the cockpit, including the use of a number of the latest weapons. On March 17, 2024, the United States test launched the AGM-183A Arrow hypersonic missile from a B-52H flying over the strategically important Pacific Island territory of Guam. And just 2 days later, they carried out another rocket launch in the same area. This seriously alarmed China and Russia, although we think that the goal of sending a clear signal to certain sworn allies was to some extent also included in the plans of the U.S. Air Force. Speaking of the nuclear weapons of the B-52, it's worth noting that in the 2010s, the U.S. Strategic Command stopped assigning B-61 and B-83 nuclear gravity bombs to the Stratofortress, leaving the mission of delivering strategic nuclear bombs solely to Northrop Grumman's B-2 Spirit stealth bombers alone. But regarding the future, there was mention of the future long-range standoff, LRSO nuclear-armed air-launched cruise missile being among the B-52J arsenal. And that's not to mention dozens of joint attack direct munition, JDAM guided bombs, wind-corrected munitions dispensers, AGM-154 glide bombs, and AGM-158 joint air-to-surface standoff missile, JASSM missiles. Extreme adaptability, even after nearly 70 years of service, has helped the B-52 become less fearful of its future, unlike most other aircraft in the U.S. Air Force fleet over the past 40 years. One of the oldest and at the same time the most powerful air platforms of the Strategic Aviation Group will remain in service until the middle of the next century, continuing to improve and complement its capabilities. The B-52 can easily be compared to a fine wine because even after a career rapidly approaching its 100th anniversary, the buff has only gotten better with age. You think the B-2 Spirit and B-21 Raider stealth bombers will be able to survive as long as the old Stratofortress? Be sure to share your guesses in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.